Now it's live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live Skull Meatloaf Podcast. The live Skull Meatloaf Podcast with Nancy Totaro. I do have a podcast where I do other things. It's on Spotify. I'll put that up in a second. But this is for every Sunday at 8. I normally pick a topic. I will pick a topic ranging anywhere from like tonight, changes and transitions, all the way to relationships to self evolution. And this is your chance to have a live dialogue. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. So you can see on the bottom, Skull Meatloaf Podcast right here. It is on all major platforms. This is just a live version, which now I used to go on the Clock app and now I multi-stream to all of the other apps. And this is a great way to have live interaction with followers. So I'm very excited to have all of you. Hi, Tony. I see that you came in on YouTube, so I can see them on the right. Hello on YouTube. I'm having a little bit of difficulty. Instagram tends to be a little stubborn. So if I'm not getting your comments, I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Let's pop over to how to follow me. So if you are new to me or you just tended to come across my live, you can follow me at Nancy Totaro on every single platform. There are only 2 exceptions. Skull Meatloaf Podcast. I do have an actual podcast Instagram that's a backup that says Skull Meatloaf Podcast, and also Skull Meatloaf Podcast on Twitch, which if you're watching me on Twitch, hello. And one of the things, again, that I really like talking about is changing up the topics every month. So I do things on my podcast like interviews and my 5-minute meatloafs, but this is again our chance to kind of dive deeper into topics and something to look forward to during the week and that I really enjoy doing. So tonight for Skull Meatloaf Podcast, we are going to be talking about changes. So change in general, transitions in general, and our human response to it and what that looks like. Now, it is a very difficult topic as far as most of the time our major changes in our life are extreme, right? Things that we don't plan for, things that we don't expect, and whatever it may be. Before we even jump into the topic, though, I'm going to pull it up in a second. It is very, very important to know anybody that isn't informed or you're new to me, informed of as far as my roles. I am a therapist. I have been for about 14 years. What I do here does not reflect any of my employers or colleagues, past, current, or the future. So because I keep these live podcasts and they're going to be on my YouTube. It's important to know that. It's important to know that they are educational only, that they do not replace any sort of medical treatment whatsoever, including those if you do have a therapist or even outside of medical treatment, a coach or someone else that's helping you with these areas. It's extremely important with mindful media. You'll hear me use that phrase a lot. It is very important to me, something I hold near and dear to my heart. Get second opinions. I am just one person. Doesn't matter that I've been a therapist for 14 years. Doesn't matter. I'm just one perspective, and it's important to expand. One of the things, like I say, with my book that's going to be coming out is these are things to consider. They're not the end all be all. They're not something where, hi, Moni. They're not Moni on Instagram. It's, I have to like switch between screens with Instagram. It is very important to know that this is just one opinion with one person. I am also a spiritualist for almost 2 decades. I do past life work and I love combining science and spirituality in my work and also do crystal work. So it's just very important people know that mindful media means getting second opinions and having your own opinion. I encourage freedom of thought in a brave space. Please go check out on all my platforms. I have a pinned video that describes what the heck a brave space is. Please go check it out and have a listen while we engage here. Let me check out. Hi, Burr. I just saw Burr's on Facebook. I'm checking out all the comments. Sorry. And hi, Tony. It doesn't mean you assume care over behavioral health. Yes, it doesn't mean that I assume care over behavioral health. I absolutely do not. And hey, Burr, I just saw that you're on Facebook and we have Adriana over on Twitch. Hello. It's nice to see all of you. We're just giving a little bit of a lowdown before we dive in, our 3 to 5 minute disclosures. So, yes, it's just important to know that this is just one conversation, and anybody in the chat, it doesn't assume any sort of role or care in any capacity. This is just people having a conversation about something difficult on their off time. And for me, this is my my off time. And I see Burr joined. Oh, hi. Okay, you can switch on Insta. The best thing about this, Burr, is that you can literally go to any of these. This is live and it's going to be recorded on all of them. Adriana is actually funny. She's on Twitch right now, but one of the things she says, she goes, "Oh my gosh, I love this. I could switch between platforms during the live." So that's totally fine. Whatever makes you comfortable. That's okay with me. And it just might take, I have to switch between comments. So if it's just taking me a little bit of a delay, it's because I'm watching those. So again, all of them are educational only. So let's get to our topic today. Let's talk about, we go from 8 to 8:50. It's just 50 minutes of us spending time together. And if we get into some hot dialogue, then it might be a little bit longer. You never know, but at least that. But what's great about this is having the Skull Meatloaf Podcast live is, you can ask questions and engage not only with me, but each other. I encourage like a community and people being kind. Again, a brave space. So when we talk about change and transitions, I just want, it doesn't matter even if it's just one word, whether on Instagram or on all the other platforms, I just want you to comment. I miss you too. So ADHD friendly. Thanks, Adriana. I feel neurodivergent for the win. So what I want you to do is to type when you think of the word change, and you can Google it. It's okay. I know that y'all got your handy dandy notebooks, aka our portable notebooks. What would Steve from Blue's Clues do now? Would he have a phone? Did he ever have a Palm Pilot? Because I feel like I don't think he ever migrated. He always just had his little book. When you think of the word change or transitions, give me some synonyms to change or transition. And I'm looking at both. I got them next to each other. He does have a phone. Does he have a phone? That's actually funny. Adriana did confirm that Steve from Blue's Clues does have a phone now. Way to upgrade, Steve. We're here for you. I am a pro Steve fan. I just want to point that out. I love Steve. Why does it look, I just want everyone to know, because this is on LinkedIn too. I have a dress on under this. I don't, makes it look like I'm half naked. It's weird. Must be the angle. Don't worry, we're not showing tatas while talking about change. When you think of the word change, Tony, because I know you're multitasking right now. Different beginnings. Adriana said, very good. Let's get a couple words. The mic is dropping your voice. It's dropping my voice? Like, what do you mean? It might be because I have allergies right now, or because I was talking like this. Is that what you're talking about? I do actually have an extremely deep voice for a feminine voice. Different beginnings. I love that. Change, transition. I'm actually going to look up, the best thing about being on a computer, you can look it up. I'm typing with one hand though. Let's do this together. Let's do this together. Okay. If you look up change, don't do it. Because clearly, coins, loose change, small change, cash, petty cash. Thanks a lot, Thesaurus. I kind of wanted to tell it to, not necessarily, okay, I'm going back to Adriana, not necessarily new. You can always transition back and forth. I like that. Your voice sounds way deeper, but it switches between your normal voice and slightly lower. Do you feel like it's Tony or Adriana? Are you hearing the same thing? I know Instagram posting you on a podcast subreddit. Thanks, Tony. Instagram has been tough with the multi-streams, both with the comments being super delayed and also the audio. Even the video has been super delayed. So, Burr, like if you notice it still is happening, sounds fine on Twitch, sounds fine on YouTube. Okay. Burr, if it keeps happening, you might need to switch to like another platform. Instagram has been really tough. So just let me know. I'll see if I can fix it. So let's talk about change. Where am I? I'm over here. Well, I'm right here, but I'm over here. Welcome to everybody that believes in the multiverse. adapt, accommodate, alternate, commute, convert, diminish, diverge, diversify, merge. Ooh, metamorphosis. Thank you. That's a fun one. Moderate, modulate. Then underneath, I love going on Google. So by the way, I'm a fan of like SEO and Google and kind of like or search engines. I don't work for them. I just want to point that out. It is very, very interesting to me the amount of when you just look up like a word and see what comes up. I do it a lot for my business so that I know like what words to put in the titles or what words to put in my SEO or hashtags. And it is so interesting. So what's a better word for change? Transmute. Transmute. Is this where everyone is? So, Moni, everybody is kind of everywhere. So we have some people that are on Hi Moni, I see you on Facebook now. Some people are on Instagram, some people are on Facebook, some people are on YouTube, some people are on Twitch. It just kind of depends and where everybody is. I just realized this is really in my face. Hi, Friday. Thank you for I don't know if you can hear my dog. She's breathing heavy. Good Lord. That sounds like me when I'm coming upstairs. I'm going back to fake. Okay, it wasn't doing it over there. That's good. Hello, welcome to Facebook on Facebook Land. I know. Instagram, I think I might just like ixnay because it's kind of tough. Evolution. Thank you, Tony. Wow, Tony. Good word. Evolution. So when we're looking at change, there's something that happens in the human body. So one of the things I am extremely passionate about is self-evolution and slow healing. Now, what that means is that things happen over time, not overnight, no shortcuts, none of that bullshit about things happening super fast. Even though what's kind of crappy is things like grief and trauma happen really fast, right? But yet the things that we need to do in order to help or evolve from those or to heal from those, it seems like it takes sometimes even decades, right? For things that happen under the blink of an eye. And it almost feels I've been processing myself like sometimes unfair. It's, the whole thing like, who told you life was fair or unfair? The point of it is like things, it feels unfair or feels fair. I think that it's more so just a statement to kind of say, wow, that felt like a smack in the face, right? It felt like something that just happened overnight. Revolution. Thanks, Tony. Tony made a point to say revolution. So as we look at change, there is something when change happens, our body does respond. Whether that is immediate, doesn't matter if it's like traumatic or short term, or if it's long term, doesn't matter. Our body responds to it. Sometimes, especially if it brings up things like stress, or it brings up, again, if there's trauma responses, the brain and the body do react to it. And it's jarring. That's not including all the barriers to change. That's just the immediate time when your brain and your body realizes, wow, things aren't the same. They're just not the same. And during like a major transition, when I talk about that, transition is just the process of change. So change is kind of like the event. Something has occurred. And transition is our body and our brain and those around us and our environment adjusting to that change. And it's difficult because I don't think a lot of people prepare us for that. I don't think that there are a lot of individuals that genuinely are taught changes are going to happen and this is how you respond. I'm just curious, like in the chat, if anybody can comment. Across the platforms, by the way, we have 22 people right now. So, hi, everybody. I don't think you guys can see that because it's on different platforms, but 22 people are watching us tonight. That is so different from TikTok. I always love TikTok or the clock app. Keeps cutting out. I'm listening. That's okay. Is anybody else's connection cutting out just so I can know? I know that Burr and Moni said they were having some difficulty. They're in the same area, so I didn't know if there was something going on. But Adriana or anybody else that's on here. We have a lot of people on X right now slash Twitter, and we have a lot of people that are popping in and out on Twitch. So just let me know. Okay, that sounds good, Tony. Other people are saying that the connection is fine and that it's good. So hopefully, I don't know, it's poor Burr and Moni. Sounds like there's something maybe going on over there. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting things are kind of okay right now. All right, just keep me posted. Thanks, Adriana, for letting me know too. So welcome to like all the comments and going back and forth. Speaking of the way brains respond to change and transitions differently. So I don't know if you've ever had somebody in your life or anybody that you've interacted with. It could be a friend, a coworker, could be the person closest to you. If you notice that when a change, like a grief, something like that, something transitions that they respond to it completely different than you. Some people get super emotional, some people compartmentalize and go logical. That's where I kind of compartmentalize and go into game mode. There are some people that get really big emotions and they have difficulty regulating it. And there's a lot that can go into that. There's a lot of reasons that go into that. Not just sometimes if people have, and this is very clear, some people do have medical barriers. When it comes to change and transitions, I think of my fellow neurodivergent population that's out there, even for myself. We respond to change in very, very specific ways. So, like I said, for the neurodivergent populations, those are those with like autism, ADHD, neurodevelopmental learning disabilities, those kinds of disabilities. What we find from like DEI work is that when change and transitions happen in major areas, that there's a high difficulty for it, or almost people on the flip side, like my neurodivergence, my frontal lobe will go to game, like it's game time, and I will start compartmentalizing and I will make it hyperlogical almost. And some people, they just have super big emotions and it's difficult for them to transition. A transition might be their Monday and their Friday, or their transition might be a major event, but it's really difficult on the brain and the body. It's very, very difficult. I just realized my little shoulder. Okay, I'm glad it's good. And thanks, Adriana and Bert and everybody for checking in. So as we look at, change and transition and all these different things, we ask ourselves, so I'm curious, how do you and I in StreamYard can see absolutely everybody's responses. You might not all be able to see each other's. How do you respond to change? And I don't care if you say anything from like good, bad, in between, all the way to giving me specifics. I always say with the brave space, no trauma dumping. That's definitely not a thing, but just sharing how you respond to change or transitions yourself. Change or transition. Do, 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 do. I know, Phoenix. Hey, Phoenix on Facebook. Well, Kate, but I call her Phoenix because she's my Phoenix. um, I am super hyperlogical. What do you notice happens, Phoenix? Like responding compartmentalized or hyperlogical? What happens? What happens for you? Burr shares, I always like to think I do well, but it definitely messes me up. What do you notice, like, if you're willing to share, Burr, like, what do you feel really like messes you up? Like physically, cognitively, do you feel like a little off kilter? Adriana says, not a fan. Externally, I take charge. Internally, my anxiety spikes. That is very so like a discontinuous mind body affect, not just like from our brain to our body, but also what other people see when we talk about masking, right? Or we talk about the front. And this is very common for people that I think that are parents, number one, or that are leaders in some capacity and inside of a workplace. But there's sometimes these different masks that we have to put on and prepare for that when we come home, and that takes a lot of energy. When people say I have high exhaustion, whether they're parents or they're leaders in the community, of course. I tend to say, even as a therapist, that people get the best version of me. So sometimes when I come home, poor Tony, when I come home, he gets the tired version of that, not the self-regulated version all the time. I do my best, yet because I use a lot of that energy at work, I'm trying to figure out how to navigate that. That's a transition and change. Tony says, I'm a ball of chaos. Yes. Tony, would you like to explain? Tony's on YouTube right now. So everybody in YouTube, hey. Tony, When you say you're a ball of chaos, can you expand on that? Burr says anxiety, yes, trying to find the new normal, but I can mask hella good because the kids have to know I'm going to lead them and they're safe. Welcome to exactly what we were talking about. Burr, that was such perfect timing, and you're always really honest and authentic. That's the thing is, especially with parents, I have learned over time, and this is 100% honest. You ready for honesty in the Skull Meatloaf Podcast? Because you're going to get it. Okay, that was a little cheesy and cringe. Don't care. Hi, welcome to me. This is Ann. Nice to meet you. Hey, kids, nice to meet you. One of the things I did not really empathize with parents. I want to be clear. When I first became a therapist, and I am by trade, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I was very, very young. I jumped into the field. I got my master's when I was in my very early 20s, like 21 or 22. I would have to look back. I think like 22 officially. Um, and one of the things that I had yeah, because I'm 36 now, I had to do the math. Welcome to my brain. Um, and I was too young. I mean, like, and it's not something like I didn't do good work. But one of the things is I really had to fight my biases. And one of the things I just couldn't understand is I'm like, you're the adult. This is something. But the reality is as I became worked with families and couples more, I kind of said like parents are evolving and growing too. Parents are evolving and growing too. So who am I to say that they need to be fully perfect and present and self-regulated when they're putting their energy at work or cleaning at home and managing kids, and I'm somehow expecting perfection out of those parents? That's not fair. And as I evolved, I expanded a deep empathy for people that have kids at home. I literally just have a dog, and I don't know how you guys do it. There are some days it's hard just managing like the dog. So I just want to say massive to my all the people that are out there that are parents, when I truly say the unspoken heroes, the parents that are healing, evolving, self-regulating during these changes and transitions. Let's just like slow down with that for a second. Think about when major grief or trauma happens to a family and the parent needs to put everybody else first. And people look at them and say, they need to be focusing on the kids. Do people have any idea? Because I know I don't. When we lost my brother, I didn't have to think about my kids. I had to take in his dog, and that is not the same thing. I love dogs, but they are not the same thing as kids. Let's be clear about that. Um, so that's just something to like percolate on. Tony said, my reactions are pretty random. So energetic, I tend to freeze. And that makes sense. So Tony's talking about like a freeze response. When people have change, transition, sometimes they go into freeze mode. And that actually is a protective factor. When someone goes into straight fear or there's a major transition or change, if somebody freezes, it's the brain being so overstimulated that there's so much going on, it stops. I like to use the example with my clients of your brain is lit up like a Christmas tree when something is happening. And then when you get so overstimulated, especially at neurodivergence or other medical conditions like TBIs, learning disabilities, neurodevelopmental, if people have other barriers, it can be even more overstimulating. It will actually freeze and stop. It will shut off the lights until it feels like it has energy to use. And it becomes very overwhelming for people. Burr on Facebook said, I always tell the girls it's hard being a whole ass person and constantly learning to communicate effectively. We are growing up alongside these generations. And I think sometimes we need to slow our kids down. How do we not put our, like you're explaining well, Burr, like really specifically, you're being human with them while not dumping your stuff on them. You're saying, listen, I am a human too. I'm not going to dump all the stuff on you, but you need to know that like I have feelings and a body response too, and how you teach kids that humanness, that humanity to us. It is not always the easiest task. And I want you to know I say it a lot, but parents, you get my deepest, deepest respect. Adriana said, I used to be great with change. Then my son got diagnosed with autism. She put ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. And with that, he was extremely rigid with his routine. He would melt down whenever there was a change. So now, even though he does so much better with change, I still panic. So there's an example that sometimes how we respond to change isn't just that fight, flight, freeze, that initial body response, but it's also the habits and learning theory and development and evolution. It's difficult when people have experienced change and what happens. It takes a while for the brain to, if let's say you have a habit of how you've done things, especially when people come to therapy or spiritual work. I'll say you literally have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. The oldest patient that I've had has been in their 90s. No identifying information, but in their 90s. And it was the same thing. It didn't matter the age or the experience. They normally came in because there was a change that their body didn't know what the hell to do with it. And it can be extremely overwhelming. It can be overwhelming for people. And that makes a lot of sense. And the other thing, let's slow down and talk about culture for a second. If you looked at I spaced out, it's because somebody started the shower. We have a townhome in the city, and I noticed they started the shower, but I'm like, what the hell is that? Let's talk a little bit about how culture responds to change. Okay. In America, when I just tell you, how does America respond to change? What's a word or a phrase that you think of? I'm taking a drink of water while you're responding. We're already halfway through our time today. Cheers to all of you. Thanks for spending Sunday night at 8 p.m. with me. I love being here. That I should have muted. I am so sorry. People with misophonia, I'm so sorry. Not okay. Panic. Yeah. Especially the media, right? Burr on Facebook said that. Adriana said on Twitch resistance. 110%. 110%. Those two are perfect. Panic and resistance, like when there's change or something shifting, right? Phoenix on Facebook said over exaggerate. Yeah. So they almost maybe not a hyperbole. That's not an appropriate application, but they blow something up. Tony on YouTube says confusion. That absolutely is true too. All four of these. Yes, I know. Over exaggerate. Like they do. They kind of look at change and transitions and they go into lockdown mode and they kind of say this is the worst thing that could ever happen. American culture is we just have to be realistic with ourselves. American culture is strongly guided by the media. I'm not going to go into any weird political rants. I'm not going to go into any weird things because it's a science and spirituality and a brave space here. We're not going to go into that. One of the things that I do want to go into is just a reality that our culture is media driven right now. And even if you ask, I have friends overseas, I'll say, what do you guys think about the American media? Goes, well, if we want the dramatic response, right, that's where we're going to go. We're going to go to American media that really blows it up into something bigger. And that's ultimately right. It's money, it's gluttony, it's making something bigger than it needs to be. So they sell more, right? I mean, it's sad, but that's the reality. Thanks to, I don't know what happened if we got rated or something, but we got about 14 additional viewers. Tony, I don't know if your post went through, but that may have happened. So thanks everybody for stopping in. Hold on, I'm taking another drink of water. My dog just yelled at me. I'm taking another drink of water. Just give me a second, please. If you can't tell, I'm from Wisconsin. I'm muting. Mostly because nobody wants to hear somebody gulping unless you're here for ASMR stuff. I could tell you. No. That's not what this is. Okay. So culture strongly impacts. And then there's the culture that's on the macro level, right? Most of us are in America, probably because it's 8:00. A lot of my European followers probably are not online right now. But Silken, you guys, if you are, hi, if you are on here. One of the things that's next is kind of how our immediate culture. So not our family yet. Let's wait on family. Let's just talk about schools, like your direct environment, school and work. It is interesting to see how our work environments, our school environments, our community environments, people that are whether they're in HOAs or they are even in communities, small business communities, or they're in their kids' soccer league communities. But how leaders respond to change and how we look at things also impacts us. I find a lot of people leave their jobs, especially in healthcare. They leave their jobs when they don't feel safe or secure with transitions. And some companies are changing so fast we can't keep our heads straight, right? They're evolving and changing and they're 2 years behind. And every time you think you're catching up, you're 6, 7 years behind. You didn't even realize it. And on the flip side, there are some communities and leaders that do really well saying that there are changes coming up. These are the reasons why. And we're going to get through this together. The one that I immediately go to is healthcare. When the pandemic happened, and I know there's a couple people that are in here that went through this too. One of the major things within healthcare when that major event happened was not only listening to the leaders, but how my colleagues responded. And it was being a therapist and an AMFT approved supervisor when like all of this was happening. It was almost like jarring. So by history, I actually do really well with transition. I work in crisis intervention. I do really well with it. And it kind of turned me upside down. It was extremely confusing. And I still to this day wonder what about it like was different. I've thought of a lot of theories. But for someone who's very hyperlogical that keeps their shit together 90, most of the time and is a leader in like many communities, it was something that really turned me upside down, and that's very, very different. But that's what I think of as like the pandemic as the major change. The other one is how our family responds to change. Whoever's under your roof, however you identify as family, doesn't matter if it's biological, foster, doesn't matter if it's chosen. Could be blood and it could be otherwise. Whoever you see as your family, how they respond to change. What did you observe growing up? When major difficult events happen, how did your family respond? The people closest to you. Learning theory will always learning theory will always be very important to development. What we learn and what we observe in the world around us culturally, both close to us and on a macro level. Adriana on Twitch said, Kyle is as cool as a cucumber. It drives me nuts. That's fair. um, I don't know how Tony feels. I normally respond like cool as a cucumber when something major happens. Like if there's something super big. The exception was, by the way, the loss of my brother. I don't want to say that I was cool as a cucumber. The strange thing is, like, I cried, I got it out, and then I went to work the next day. That's a whole different conversation. We'll leave grief for another day. But it very much like, I don't know, Tony, I'm curious if you're still on YouTube. How do you respond when I'm kind of the cool as a cucumber and you're more the big emotion person? I know Tony, and this is not a bad thing, but he'll be like, that's fair. Tony said on YouTube, "I think because of my upbringing, I try not to let that stuff hit me." Are you talking about like the change or transition or that we're different and how we respond? It's more of an internal thing, I think. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I feel like it's with me, like Tony will when things big and he's wanting that reaction in some way. I think when somebody is too hyperlogical and too apathetic, it's almost like people are like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm okay. Like it's not the right time for me to process things. Like I need to sit with this. It's not that I'll ignore it. It's not that I'll shove it down, maybe initially, but not forever. I let my emotions come and go. Um now Burr is on YouTube. This is where the cool kid is. Yeah, Tony and Burr. Hey. Adriana, yeah, growing up, I didn't react for the most part. I would just keep in and not talk about it. I was the same way, Adriana. And do you feel, and with your comfort, all voluntary, what do you think? Like, I have two questions, Adriana, because you're very open about like your culture, your upbringing, things like that. I think in a really healthy way. When you think of, not reacting and keeping it in and not talking about it, like transitioning as an adult to break that trauma bond, like in cultural like norms, breaking that to start talking, and because you're very vulnerable and healthy with that, and as a friend, that's why it's easy to get closer to you. With someone like me that I close people out or have difficulty being vulnerable, it's really easy with you because you are vulnerable too. How did you make that transition? Tony said, "Ye." Wait. I held too excuse me. Tony said, "I held in stuff too much as a kid, and it ended up coming out at the worst times." Yes, I think that's what happens. But here's the thing. One of the greatest gifts from our parents is their level or their skills at self-regulation. And I'm not talking about shoving it down. I'm saying self-regulating, meaning like the way they process their emotions and thoughts and what they show us. I had very stoic parents most of the time. Yet when it came down to when difficult things happened, they always pulled us aside and said, "We're having these feelings too, yet right now we need to check in with you." Or they'd say, "I'm not in a place to talk about this right now. Like you got to talk to your dad or somebody else, but I will come check with you tomorrow." I think they were very honest about what they couldn't do. Adriana on Twitch said, "I realized that not reacting wasn't health. I don't know if you meant health or healthy. Not talking about not talking about things wasn't healthy." Austin also played a huge role in this. Isn't it amazing just like our kids impacting us? It's funny you bring this up because my nephew Carter very much has taught me a lot. Like, I'll be like, "Okay, Carter, like, call me out on my shit." Like, I love it because he's very intuitive. He's 12 years old now. And I'm like, "Come on, Ann needs it. Like, what do you?" And he looks at me, he goes, "Well, you know how, like, here's an example." He goes, well, like when you, me, and Tony were coming back from WWE and it was really late, and I understand you were tired." This is literally what he said. Tony and I were in stitches. And he looked at me, he goes, "Well, I just feel like it was unfair because you specifically said you understood. And I said I didn't want to stop on the way home, but they wanted to stop because they were hungry and had to go to the bathroom. And it was like an hour and a half drive. And I was very upset." And I said, I was like, "I just want to get home. Please don't ask. Go to the bathroom, get snacks before we have to go." And they still asked. And it so happened that I said, "I don't want to go off the beaten path and it better not take too long." Well, of course, it took like 30 extra minutes because there was a whole bunch of kids. They were there really late. It was off the beaten path. It was everything I didn't want. And I was trying to self-regulate in the car the longer it took, and they got back to the car and I like flipped. I was just like, I'm upset. I wanted to get home. This is exactly what I was talking about. It's like I could tell the future. I knew this was going to happen. So that's what Carter was talking about. And he said, "Well, I feel like you kind of like that wasn't really fair because you said you understood, but you were like still angry." And I said, and he's like, "And it's not that it wasn't okay that you were angry." He goes, "It's just that you still took it out on us and yelled at us." He goes, "That wasn't fair." And I said, that's valid. So kids, my point of bringing that story up is that you can hear Tony laughing because he did. He was like, "Yeah, that wasn't really fair." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. That wasn't." Like, and Tony like gave me a look over in the car like this. And I was like, "You're correct. I did not self-regulate." Let's catch up on some comments. Burr from YouTube, our lovely Amber said, "I heard more than I should have and was exposed to adult themes for earlier than I should have. Felt like I needed to help or moderate my parents' feelings." Amber, you're bringing up a really huge point. And sorry, I'm 3 minutes behind. It came up at 8:35. So sorry. Burr brought up a really good thing about regulating, having to like almost be a parent or help regulate their parent. We actually call this a thing in family therapy. There's a term for this. It's called parentification. Or on the flip side, if there is a couple relationship that's not going well, we call it when they kind of align with one of the kids and almost say like they almost turn them into like a spousification role where they will, ask the kid for help or the kid will defend the other parent. Um, this is a huge thing that happens in family therapy. It is actually one of the primary things. It's basically when the hierarchy or the parent structure is severed in some way. And it doesn't mean that like parents need to be together. It means how parents that are not together or single parents respond to conflict or respond to change and transition. And they often, because that's how you can tell a parent does not regulate their emotion very well, that the kid is having some sort of thought that they need to step in or do something. So it's always important, by the way, that is very much restructurable. It's fixable. It is something that can like change and alter over time and it can repair. It's just important to know like when it exists. But you brought up a major thing there. Adriana says, with him, I had no choice. Him as in her son. But to explain my feelings and to explain my choices were growing up when I asked why the response was because I said so. Austin needs an explanation, right? We think of when we change or transition. Why is this happening? Because I said so. Why does this need to happen? Because I said so. Adriana's describing how her child with autism spectrum disorder, she had to slow down. And this is the rest of it. She said, the response of because I said so, Austin, her son, needs an explanation to understand. And it wasn't and isn't fair to leave him wondering why. We never talked about things growing up, which I understand that that's how my parents grew up and they parented to the best of their abilities. But as a parent myself, I can change things that I didn't like growing up and parent my children differently. Let's drop the mic on that shit right there. Mic motherfucking drop. We're just going to leave that right there. But as a parent myself, I can change the things that I didn't like growing up and parent my children differently. On the flip side, those people without children, I do not have them. It is another concept of that is we do not need to continue the cycles, the things that we've learned, the symptoms, the habits. And we're not talking about just with mental health. Mental health is biological components. We're talking about the habits, the things that we've learned, the patterns of communication and of being that we have learned. Sometimes they even migrate from intergenerational or transgenerational trauma. We do not, this is something I'm very, very passionate about with individual work, with couples, with all relational and family work. We do not need to repeat the cycles or the things that we have learned that no longer serve or that hurt or hinder. And they are the deepest wounds and they are the most difficult habits to change because they are ingrained from when we're children. It is very possible. I am breaking them myself. Amber says, amen. Don't pass along the traits that didn't suit us. Exactly. And it's our job, just like Amber said on YouTube, to stop and be like, why the fuck am I still doing this? Why are we still doing this? What purpose is it serving? It is okay, and I tell people to have the knowledge and to educate yourself and to understand where it comes from. But as soon as you're 18, it is your job to change it. And it's not something you like. This is a brave space. I will call people out on their shit all day long because the reality is a lot of us spend a long time blaming our parents for things. And I am not saying that there are some parents that don't deserve to be held accountable or to be told or to heal certain things. Yet it comes down to when we look at change and transitions and ourselves and breaking intergenerational bonds, it is also realizing that we have it in our hands to self-regulate and change. Okay, Moni, sounds good. Moni said, I'm here now. I'm driving. Moni, I think Burr is on you and Tony are on YouTube. So if you don't see the comments. So yes, it's very important. Let's just talk about Wind of Change. Gosh, I know I can't play music because everything blocks it, but I would play Wind of Change right now if I could. Everybody turn on Wind of Change like in solidarity, but Tony don't because they'll hear it in the background. It's solidarity of my brain, my neurodivergent brain. Please play Wind of Change at some point today. change and transition, we also change and transition how we respond to change and transition. Humanity, you are evolving. How you respond to change will be different when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s and all the way up. The more things that happen to you and the more lived experience, you need to adjust how you respond to things because we learn more every day. Adriana said, but I will say it can be very difficult to change. I spent 18 plus years hearing exactly and seeing my parents react the same way. So when I'm overwhelmed and overstimulated, it can be easy to just react the same way my parents did. Hell yeah, Adriana. That's what I mean. People that are doing the deep shit. And I'm doing it like right alongside you. I tell people like whether it's shadow work or whether people talk about intergenerational trauma, one science, one spirituality, whichever one, just like manifestation versus setting goals. One of the things that's really important is literally over 18 years, 18 plus years of your life, you've been using your decision making model a certain way. You've been communicating a certain way. So when there is a choice to change that and freedom of thought to change that, it is difficult to break those. Adriana said, but when I do slip up, I'm almost not afraid to apologize to my child. That's brave, by the way. And honestly, very humble because I never heard a single apology from my parents growing up. They were really great parents. I believe you. In my culture, your parents are always right and you don't question it. That's the thing, right? Culturally bound to certain things or beliefs. And that's difficult because, right, the respect your elders, parents are always right. A lot of those concepts, especially with first generation kids, um, Adriana is nailing it, no joke. This absolutely, I think all of you are nailing it, to be honest. And we have a lot of people that are in here that have a lot of personal experiences, like with their families, past and current, and are really doing the work. So we have a good team in here today. Um, yeah, but in my like parents always having to be right. It was really interesting because growing up, mine was a little confusing because my parents, and Adrienne, I'm with you. My parents are really amazing people. Anybody that means Alan, Colleen, they are wonderful, wonderful people. They are wonderful humans. They self regulate. They work really hard. They don't ask for a thing. They put their couple relationship first. They did not talk about big things in front of us. Yet it was when I say we had very stoic parents. And it wasn't until they were a little older that they realized that because a lot of us were perfectionistic, the 3 kids, that they should have showed emotion a little bit more, and I think because of that, I think they were a lot more collaborative with a little bit of like that, there was an understanding that like, because we grew up in like a Catholic, Italian Catholic household culturally, you know, it was God and parents, but it wasn't in the way that it was demeaning or shaming. It was very much like they earned their spot, and my parents very much did. So it wasn't hard to follow that rule because they were really good people. But that is not always the case. I'm just saying that's not always the case. So we are coming up on our last few minutes. Okay. We made it an awesome day today. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be back every Sunday at 8. I will be here. I had my birthday and some other things come up, and very selfishly, I went to WWE and was watching WrestleMania. WWE fans, just saying. Rhea Ripley, I love you if you're watching this. She won't be watching this because she literally just won a WrestleMania. She's not going to be watching my podcast. One day, I'm going to manifest the shit out of that. The Rhea Ripley will watch on here. Okay, so tell me if there's any final thoughts, questions, advice. Drop it in the chat and I'm going to say it. And I'm going to do, while everyone's doing that, thoughts, questions, or advice that you want to drop in the chat before we end our day about change, because some of these will be posted. I don't believe I grew up with a matter of, Amber said, I grew up with a mother that liked, to show and pony as kids. It was awful. When you talk about those things, I think more of us, even if we don't like, quote unquote, sit and blame or hyper focus, it is important that some of us share about what happened with us, right? Not trauma dumping, but just sharing with people we love and that we're healing. You know what I mean? Just to be like, what was it like in your household? What did happen? You know what I mean? what did that look like? I got to scroll down. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I got to scroll down and we got a lot of comments and I went too high up. Follow and subscribe and like. Yes. Thank you for all. You're welcome, sweetie pie. I adore all of you that are in here. All the old and new. By the way, we had a traffic of 42 people tonight. It shows me on the side. 42 people and actively like at least 12 to 15. So that's awesome for coming back after a little bit of a hiatus. So thank you. Every Sunday at 8, we will be doing a live Skull Meatloaf podcast with Nancy Totero. You can check out the Skull Meatloaf podcast. Let's put it up here. It's on all major platforms. Thanks, StreamYard. So good. Skull Meatloaf Podcast. You can find the video of my podcast interviews, Epoxy, for season 7. The videos are now available on YouTube and on Spotify. You can check them out on either. The audio is still available on all the platforms like Apple and Spotify and everything else. These ones are not. These are special and live. The videos will be posted on places like YouTube and Twitch to rewatch, but they won't be anywhere else. So these are kind of special little bonus episodes every Sunday at 8 p.m. Central. Come and hang out. Multi-stream. You can catch me on anything. Tonight we were on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitch and X and Instagram, and it was a wonderful day. It was so nice to see all of you. And make sure to check out and follow me on all platforms. I am off the clock app, so I always say I lost about 33 to 34,000 followers. But when I say like this has been really good to expand on other platforms because I'm meeting so many new people. And thanks for coming to talk about our topic about change and transition today. Again, friendly reminder, all of them are educational only. They don't replace any treatment or assume any roles. This is just for us to hang out and talk about difficult things because it's hard to have brave spaces to do that. I look forward, no show pony, just going with your train of thought. Oh yeah, no. I definitely know what you meant. Amber said, no show pony, just going with your train of thought of parents being so like, heck yeah. I'm totally in agreement. And thank you for all the comments. To everybody that was in here today that was actively commenting, to the chunk of people that came to visit us today that were definitely new. Make sure to follow me on the platforms, whichever one you watched me on. I'll be here Sunday at 8 every single Sunday. And unless otherwise noted. And yeah, I'm trying to think. The only other final thing I was going to say is we sold out of our April group spiritual meeting. We call it the bonfire. It's with Tony the Medium / Tony Sandoval and myself. We do just spiritual work. It's not science work. It's spirituality, and it's everything from dream interpretation, past life, energy work, mediumship, and it's got all that stuff combined, and it's only with 5 people. It's $50 per spot. It's the best. Thanks, Adriana. There's the bonfire. Yeah, burr. The bonfire. Come sit around the bonfire with us. April is sold out. It's sold out really fast. This is actually the 8th month that it has sold out. I did put up May early because we're going to do it May 19th. It's on Sunday. It's at 3 p.m. Central. There's only 5 spots. So if you are interested, they've been selling out super fast. If you love the spirituality work, if you don't do it. Okay. This is not to like lasso anybody into like some weird culty thing. This is about people just trying to find faith or something they believe in bigger than themselves. And if you love that sort of stuff, then please come and check it out on my website, anctotero.com. You can check out the bonfire in the shop. It's called the bonfire, and Tony and I will be there on May 19th. Otherwise, I think it's time for the sign off, my friends. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. I'm 2 minutes over. Damn it. I'm 2 minutes over. So what I'm going to say is the final line: evolve and heal on, my friends. We'll see you soon. Bye.